Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel. And on today's review we're going to be looking at Permanent Record by Ben Seidman and Vanishing Ink, an effect that came out a few weeks ago and has gotten only positive buzz and positive reviews, and rightfully so because it is very good. Now I know there's a ton of reviews of this already out there, but I do hope that if you end up watching my review, I'll give you or maybe show you a few additional things that may nudge you to buy this if it's on your to-do list, or maybe show you that maybe this is not necessarily a product for you. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Perfect. So you decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about Permanent Record. Now, what is Permanent Record if you don't already know? Permanent Record, in essence, is a change of a card on the back of a bicycle card box, okay? That's in essence what the effect is, but I think it's better explained in a small presentation. Now, as most of my reviews, I don't have spectators, so I'm going to pretend I have spectators, and we're just going to roll with that, okay? So you would take out your deck of cards and you would come to a table of maybe, let's say, 3 spectators, and you would ask them, so are you familiar with cards? Or you would introduce yourself and tell them you do card magic, etc. But nonetheless, you'd ask them if they have a favorite card. We would ask the first spectator if they have one, yes or no, depending if, let's say, if they say no, you tell them, okay, so just make up one. We'll make up today one of your lucky cards. What would it be? So let's say the first person tells you the 10 of spades. You tell them, very interesting. You, ma'am, for example, what is your favorite card? Let's say she says, the Queen of Hearts, right? Let's say she goes and says the Queen of Hearts. See, that's very interesting. So yours is 10 of spades, yours is Queen of Hearts. And what about you, sir? What is your favorite card? Let's say says the 3 of clubs. And you tell them, okay, now that's very interesting, because out of all of the 3, I think you're the best one to pick up on this. So you, ma'am, I think we've kind of built a connection. I think this is going to work with you, because I've asked you both, or all of you, your favorite cards. For example, you didn't have a favorite card and you made up one, the 10 of spades. Maybe going forward, that's going to be a lucky card for you one day. You mentioned to me the 3 of clubs, but you mentioned to me specifically the Queen of Hearts. And what's interesting is that as I was talking to you and pointing to you, I was always pointing with the deck, talking with the deck, moving it from hand to hand. And what's interesting is that I was doing that so that one of you would catch the card printed on the back of the bicycle box. And that is the Queen of Hearts. And that's the exact card that you named printed on the card box. Now, that's interesting because that could have been influence. But I wanted to try this differently with you. And this time, I want to try it with a deck of cards so that you don't feel influenced. And let's us take all the cards out of here. So I don't want you to feel influenced, and we're going to take this box, and you, sir, can you just place your hand? I'm just going to leave that right there in your hand. So now what we're going to do is you're going to choose one of these cards, and as you can see, all the cards are different, okay? And you're going to choose one of these cards for me in a moment. So what we're going to do is I'll go through the cards just like this, and you're just going to touch one on the back. Let's say they touch this one. So you tell them, perfect, this card right here. So you could have chosen any card, but you want this one. Perfect, take a look at it and remember it, okay? You got it? And they say yes. They say, great. So now you have one card. And was that a fair choice? You could have won one more, one less. You could have went towards the top. You could have went to the bottom, but you went towards the middle. And now you have one card that you're thinking of, correct? Now, what's interesting is that similar to what we did before, this is an exercise of influence. Because I don't know if I told you this before, but on the back of the card of every single bicycle card box, there's one card printed on it. Did I show that to you before? And then they'll say, yeah, it was the Queen of Hearts. And you tell them, the Queen of Hearts. No. It's always the same card on every single box. And it's never the Queen of Hearts. It's actually always the 10 of Hearts. Is that by chance the card that you selected? And they'll say yes. And you tell them, so you could have chosen any card among all the different cards that you saw. You took 10 of Hearts. And that's interesting because on that box, if you pick it up and you take a look, there's one card printed on the back of the playing card box, and it's really printed on there. You could really look at that. It's really printed on. It's the 10 of Hearts. So that's a quick presentation of it. I know it's not that good performing it to the camera. You know, I don't have anyone to play off of, to get lines from, to interact with, but that's my version of it. It's not necessarily the way Ben performs it. I like to perform it as a bit differently, whereas when the card is there, I kind of want to recall that I forgot to show them the card on the back. I kind of do it like, oh, I don't know if I told you, but every card box has a card. So I kind of want to, in their mind, play on the fact that they're like, yeah, obviously, you did that literally a minute ago with the Queen of Hearts. I'm like, every card has there, and it's always this card. So then when I named that, they're like, what? No, it wasn't. It was the Queen of Hearts before. But then they realize the card that they picked is... Anyway, you're getting what I mean about this. I don't want to go too much on a tangent, as I always do, and I usually do. But that's the way that I like to perform it, and I hope that maybe that's a bit enjoyable, at least to the slightest. Again, without actual people, it's not as fun to perform, and you're not really getting the reactions and stuff. But nonetheless. So, having said that, where do you buy this, how much does it cost, and what do you get? So, you can buy this at any major magic dealer. This is available, of course, at Vanishing Ink, or at even your local shops. I got mine from my local magic shop here in Canada, and it cost me $34.95 Canadian for my Canadian friends, but for my American viewers and friends, this costs $24.95, so basically 25 US dollars, okay? So, having said all of that, what do you get with your 25? You get this beautiful box. Inside of this box, as you open it up, you'll get a QR code or a manual link that you can go type and is going to bring you to the Vanishing Ink website. That's going to have a 70-minute tutorial with Ben Seidman going over everything that you need to know about the effect. It has live performances in there. It has live performance commentaries in there. And he goes over everything that you need to know about this effect. Literally everything. Variations, ways to do this with no sleight of hands, way to do this with sleight of hand, ways to do this with a normal deck, ways to do this with a gimmick deck, ways to do this with visual changes. Everything that you need to know, he covers step by step. It's a brilliant instructional video. He even tells you, how you could do this so that it hits every single time. So that instead of asking, what's your favorite card, what's your favorite card, what's your favorite card, and essentially hoping that someone names it, he even teaches you surefire ways that require a bit of thinking and a bit of preparation for you to always get the hit. So it's great. The tutorial video is great. Then additional to that tutorial video, you're also getting cards. And this is not a normal deck. This is a gimmick, full gimmick to the brim deck of cards. Now, this deck of cards is provided to you for the routine, but it's more of a tool. You can use this deck in any other routines that you want. So this is not the type of deck that's built for permanent record. Now, yes, it is heavily gimmicked, so it's not a deck that you could use to do an ambitious card or a deck that you could use to do a triumph with, right? But if you want to do, for example, a force of a card or have someone pick a card and always be in control of it, you can use this deck as a tool in other effects and not just permanent record. Then additionally to all of that, you are getting 4 gimmicks. You're getting 2 red bicycle back gimmicks, and by bicycle back I mean bicycle back box gimmicks, and then you're also getting gimmicks for a blue deck. So you're getting gimmicks that are going to work on a red deck and gimmicks that are going to work on a blue deck of bicycle cards. You're getting 2 of each, which is great. So for $25 you're getting a lot of things here. So having said that, let's get into the crux of the review, and first let's talk about difficulty. So is this effect difficult to perform? And the answer is, it depends on what you want to do. This effect can be as easy or as hard as you want. So it can be as easy as I did, where you ask players their favorite card, and even if they don't name the card, Ben Seidman gives you a beautiful way to get into the routine whatsoever. So no forcing, nothing like that. Zero skill, literally zero skill, just asking a few questions. And then you can pull out from the card box your gimmick deck, and do it with a gimmick deck, which requires basically no sleight of hand and anything like that. There's 1 or 2 moves that are super, super simple. So yes, there is sleights involved, if you want to call them sleights, but it's nothing too complicated. So there's no real complicated sleights in this, anything like that, right? In the way that I performed it for you, I got even lucky that one of the cards got stuck in the box, so that I was basically able to do the routine without any need of sleights, which is great. But Nonetheless, you are going to need even the easiest way, you're going to need some slides. However, you can change this up. For example, if you want to, for example, do this with a normal deck and still ask questions to your spectator at the start and not do a psychological thing, then it's going to get a bit harder because you're going to have to go through the normal procedure that you do to have a card chosen by your spectator. You can do anything. You can do classic methods. You can do whatever you want to get your spectator to select the card that you need. So it's going to require a bit more manipulation. Now you can even push this further. So you can do this with a normal deck, and you can do the first phase with psychological forces. So you can maybe psychologically force the cards. There's some really easy ways to force the cards provided to you by Ben. You can even use his method beforehand to make this even more impossible. So I'm not going to tell you what that is. You're going to learn that when you purchase this. But as the purpose of this is to show you that this can be as easy or as hard. It can be literally just with a few slides and nothing else and a gimmick deck, perform the routine. You can switch out the gimmick deck with a normal deck and perform it, or you can use psychological forces or other methods and a normal deck to achieve the effect. So really difficulty-wise, it depends on you. There's going to be something for everyone, but you're going to still have I don't know how to really say this because I say this in a lot of my reviews, because some of the effects require a bit of performance chops, and depending on the routine that you do, you'll have to have a bit of that, okay? So even for the easiest one, I think having a good script or a good premise as to what is happening, or having some good moments where you kind of play with the expectations of your spectators is really, really fun. So you'll have to play with that around. But nonetheless, difficulty-wise, to sum it up, it can be easy, intermediate, or a bit more advanced, depending on your knowledge and on your skills. Regarding practicality, is this effect practical? And the answer is yes. Again, I'm going to repeat myself. This depends on how you want to perform this. So no matter what you're doing, so no matter if you're doing the easy, the intermediate, or the harder handling, you'll always need to carry around your permanent record gimmick. So no matter what, that gimmick will always be with you. So that gimmick goes on the back of your bicycle cards, whether they're the gimmick deck, whether they're a normal deck, that gimmick goes there. So no matter what, the gimmick needs to be there. A deck of cards, either bicycle red or bicycle blue, you need to have that as well. So either the gimmicked one or the normal one. So practicality wise, in terms of what you carry around, you'll always need your deck of cards, and your gimmick fits in the deck of cards, so you're not going to have to carry anything extra around with you. Okay, now if you want to do the version with a gimmick deck, then of course you'll have to carry around the box with the gimmick deck inside, or you'll have to carry around the gimmick deck and all your other decks with you. So you will have to carry around an additional deck just for this effect. But I feel most people are going to perform this with a normal deck. So all you need is your normal bicycle box with the gimmick, and you're ready to go to perform really, really practical. Now, regarding practicality, let's talk about the reset. The reset, no matter what routine you perform, so whether you perform the gimmick deck, the ungimmick deck, the normal deck, then the reset is the same in terms of you just have to re-prep what you need to prep to start off the routine. So that's all that you need to prepare for the effect, and the reset is really, really quick. So as you're done performing, you just re-prepare the deck. Maybe it's going to take you 5 seconds. So it's nothing hard, right? So that's whether gimmicked or in gimmick deck, it's the same. Regarding angles, there's not much angles to be seen here. Not like a part of someone is looking from below at a certain point in the routine. They're going to see something, but apart from that, there's not really any angles. There's maybe a bit of angles and handling things that you need to take into consideration. If you're doing the gimmicked deck version, you'll maybe have to take care about your angles and some things about that. But if you're doing the normal deck handling, there's not many angles that you need to fear. Lastly, what is the inspectability? Again, if you're doing this with a gimmick deck, not inspectable. Not inspectable at all. If you're doing this with a normal deck, then the card box is fully inspectable, as is it with the gimmick deck, which I did use for the performance. So the card box, no matter what, ends inspectable, and the deck, even if you do it with the normal deck, with a small cleanup, you'll be able to hand out the deck and they can inspect it completely. So pretty much inspectability, you can have everything inspected if you're doing it with the normal deck, Whereas with the gimmick deck, you cannot have the deck inspected whatsoever. They can't even take a top card and look at it. So, having said about that, where would you perform permanent record? Now, permanent record does not require a table. It does not require anything for you to do this. You can do this standing up, with your spectator standing up, anywhere you want. So, performance-wise, this works super well for table hopping, weddings, moving from table to table, restaurants, clubs, bars, street magic, anything that where you can perform with a deck of cards, you can do this effect. So any table hopping, walk around setting, this effect is A1. Since you're already most of the time going to carry around a card box with you, you're going to be ready to perform permanent record at any place, anytime. Now, if you perform parlor, yes, you could do this routine, and stage you could do it as well. However, in those settings, it may be harder for the spectators in the back to see what's going on the card box. So for stage, I wouldn't really recommend it. And for parlor, if you're doing small parlor environments like 10-ish people, then yes, people could see what's going on. But if you're doing something like 50 people and some people are like really in the back and you're doing this up front and you're showing them, can you show them the box? The people in the back are probably not going to see. So the effect isn't going to play out as well for everyone in the audience. So for those type of environments, maybe this is not as well suited, but for anything that's more close up and close quarters, this effect is going to work perfectly. Having said all of that, let's get into the positives and negatives of permanent record. So first of all, what are the negatives of permanent record? There's honestly not much. One of the only negatives that I can think about permanent record is that, as the method works, the reveal and the favorite card of the spectator is always going to be the same, and you only have a switch option. So if you want to go at another table and perform the same effect, the end result is always going to be the same. So no matter what routine you perform, the end result is always the same. So the 10 of hearts, as your magicians, you already know, is always on bicycle card boxes. But for the first phase, you have an opportunity to switch it around a bit. So you can switch the first phase around a bit and have different cards named, but for the second phase, it's always going to be the same card. So for some people, that's going to pose an issue, but not for most. And the second one, again, this is really nitpicking to find some things because I don't think there's any product that has no negatives. But maybe another one is that if you're someone that performs with your own brand of cards and you don't perform with the standard bicycle cards, you'll not be able to perform this effect. So this works only for people that perform with standard bicycle cards. If you're someone that has their own brand of cards or that uses specific cards that they love, you will not be able to do this, as this is purely adjusted just for bicycle decks and cannot be adjusted or made for any other decks, okay? So those are the negatives that I wanted to mention. What about the positives? One, an instructional video is absolutely great. Two, for $25, you are getting a plethora of things. You're getting a gimmick deck that you can use, a gimmick deck that you can use for other routines. You're getting 4 gimmicks for both red and blue, 2 of each. You're getting, the card box provided to you. Even though it's not gimmick, you're getting the card box, you're getting a good packaging. And again, the instructional video is great. You're getting a lot of knowledge here. Not even based on the routine, but knowledge about how to be a performer yourself. So you're getting a lot of things. Two, it's a very modular routine. You can make it as easy or as hard as you want. It's also a modular routine in the terms that you can perform it with a gimmick deck or an ungimmick deck. You can choose where you want. It's also a very good trick for walk around. It's also visual. It's also engaging. It's also entertaining for your spectators. So a lot of positives to say about permanent record. So having said all of that, would I recommend permanent record, and what would I rate it out of 10? So would I recommend permanent record? Yes. I think if you do card magic, having permanent record in your arsenal is definitely worth it. Just carrying around the gimmick in your card box is not going to hurt anyone, and you'll be able to do this effect at any point in time if you have your cards with you. So if you have a normal deck and you have your cards and you have the gimmick with you, you're good to go 24/7 whenever you want to perform. So I think that if you're doing card magic, I think there's no reason not to have permanent record with you as an option. I think it's great. It gives you a fun option, a fun opener as well, a fun opener to your magic set. So yeah, I definitely recommend permanent record. If you're a card magician, thoroughly recommend. So what would I rate permanent record out of 10? I would rate it 8.5 on a 10. It's an effect that I like a lot, but not an effect that I feel is like Personally, it's not like groundbreaking or the most impressive things I've ever seen, so it can't really pass a higher barrier, but it's still really, really good and a really fun effect to perform. So yeah, for the price, you can't go wrong. And that's all I have to say. So make sure to comment down below, like and subscribe, and I'll see everyone in my next review.